and welcome to the Well I Am podcast. My name is Kerry Miller, and today we are ditching all things you thought you knew about powerlifting and femininity. But obviously, I have absolutely no way to talk to you about this. We have to get the number one lady in this field, Miss Lil Bianchi. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
I live in Durban. I live in KZN. So your name, everyone knows in the industry. But for someone who doesn't know, and I've got to read this correctly, you are a 4 times World Champion Powerlifter, and you are a 19 times world record holder, and you are a strength and performance coach.
Correct.
All right, all this, and I presume you couldn't have been doing this for too long. You look like 20-something.
Thank you. I just turned 40.
Stop.
Yeah, I turned 40 last week.
Happy birthday, and
Thank
that's
you.
outstanding.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so what, World Champion Powerlifter and 19 times world record holder. Record what? What record?
So I've got world record across all disciplines: squat, bench press, deadlift, and then the total is also a world record. So in powerlifting, how it works is your heaviest squat, your heaviest bench press, your heaviest deadlift added together. That total is what we work towards. I also hold a world record in the total.
What? And still, you still hold the record now, or has some woman come?
So there's many federations in powerlifting, and in the federation that I was world champion in, those records still stand.
Okay, so you've taken clean and press to a whole nother level. Some of us are at home just like wrapping and ironing, but you're cleaning and pressing. I get it.
So we squat, we bench press, and we deadlift. Those are the disciplines. And I did that actually in my 30s. So I wasn't powerlifting in my 20s. So a lot of people come to me and they say, oh, am I too old to start? My professional career as a powerlifter only started at 31, and I achieved all those accolades now before 40. So I've done that in my 30s. So you're never too old to start. I've got one of my athletes is in his late 50s, and he's still competing. He's a 10-time world champion.
Wow.
There's so much longevity in the sport. It truly is for everyone.
Lil, I know that we have a camera on us right now, and you don't have to say anything you don't want to say, but is there any way we can go talk about what happened pre-powerlifting? Because you've been quite open about your life getting to this point.
So before I got into strength sports and into the strength world, I spent 10 years as a drug addict. And when I found powerlifting, it was the first time, I had gone in and out of rehab 2 or 3 times. It was a struggle, it was a battle, and it was only when I found powerlifting, and, a lot of this, I may take some heat for this, but it's true when they say that an addict needs to put their addiction into something else. And that's exactly what I did. I found powerlifting, I found strength sports, and that's where all my energy went, 110% of my energy. And a lot of people ask me today, what are your biggest achievements, what are your biggest accolades, what are the things you're most proud of? And I can sit here and tell you that it's each one of those titles, or I remember every single world record, where I was, what I'd been through to achieve those things, but those things aren't the memorable things for me. Every world record that I broke was pushing me further and further away from the person that I once was, and that's what those things mean to me. As a coach, yes, the credibility's taken me a long way because I hold these accolades. So I have a good knowledge of my sport. I know what it takes to compete at a high level. But for me personally, I don't look at it like that. You walk into my home and you're not going to see trophies and medals. You're not going to see the certificates of all my world records, because it doesn't mean those things to me. It means it's about where I was and where I am today, and how each one of those things, I've been into a lot of dark places during this time. I've been through a lot of trauma, like we all have. We've all been through shit in our lives. And I've had those moments where it's been very quick or easy for me to turn back to that drug, because I know that it's going to save me in that moment.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up originally in Rustenburg. I went to school in Hilton, varsity in Cape Town. So I've been all over the place.
And first time you used a drug?
Cape Town.
What was the drug?
Cocaine.
And was that the drug of choice for the next 10 years?
Yes.
How often were you using?
So I used to work in the hotel industry, and a lot of people can look at that industry as quite glamorous, but you're working 18 hours a day. And I was working in some top hotels with some high-profile clients, and you constantly have to be on your toes. You're constantly entertaining. And when coke gets hold of you, I always talk about cocaine like the limitless drug. We've all seen the movie Limitless, right? And how it taps into your psyche, and how you suddenly have this incredible confidence, and how you can tap into things that memories of, whether it's something you heard on the news, whether it's your memory on everything, you can just
Like
dive into
hyper-alert.
conversations with people. And you become addicted to that, because cocaine really is not a physical addiction. It's not like heroin. It's not like smoking cigarettes. It's totally mental. And when you become dependent on that, you completely lose yourself.
So for 10 years, you're
For
using
10
coke,
years.
what, every day?
Every day, a lot, every day.
Were you able to have relationships?
I couldn't get out of bed in the morning.
I was about to say, were you
without
doing
having
any
a line.
exercise, or were you, oh,
No.
what? Seriously?
I could not get out of bed in the morning. I was at a point where I was crushing glass and putting it into my cocaine just to make the absorption that much faster and that much higher.
And for 10 years?
For 10 years. For 10 years.
What-
So powerlifting literally saved my life.
I was about to say, what was that? Because there's a day that you woke up and you didn't have a cocaine breakfast. What was it that made you go, I can't anymore? Or did you get to a point where someone else stepped in?
So the 3 occasions that I was in rehab, the first 2 was because I was told I needed to go. I was told that I had a problem. I was told that I needed to sort it out.
It was forced
But
on you, not your own
it's
choice.
bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit. If you are an addict, you will not overcome it until you are ready to do that. And that's when you start losing and breaking down relationships, when those people remove themselves from you because you're not willing or you don't believe that you have a problem. I was successful. I was working in hotels in Europe. I had a high position. And I looked at this like, I don't have a problem.
And were you still able to perform your
100%.
duties at work? So
Oh,
you were
100%.
waking up, you
I
were...
think there's a big misconception with a lot of drug addiction. You know, you can look at, and I'm not speaking from experience here, but you look at a crack addict or a heroin addict, that can go down a very, very dark road. But something like cocaine doesn't necessarily send you down that road. You're still keeping your shit together.
Well, so it seems.
Yeah, so it seems. So it seems. You know, externally, you don't deteriorate as much as you do on the other drugs. So you're not seeing what other people are seeing, you know. And that was why I think it took so long for me to get out of it.
What did your body and skin look like at that time?
So I'd lost a lot of weight. And when I started this journey, I was 46 kilos.
How tall are you?
kilos. I'm 5'2", 5'3".
Oh, sure, that's
46
light,
kilos.
eh?
I had a body fat of around 27-28%. So for anybody who has the knowledge, that's not healthy for women. Although I was tiny, people looked at me, and this is why I laugh when people say they want to be skinny.
No.
Skinny isn't necessarily healthy. The less body fat you have, the healthier you are. I also come from a very athletic background. So in school, I was playing provincial hockey. I knew what my body was capable of. And when I started looking back at myself in the mirror and seeing my eyes glazed over,
Sure,
it
goosebumps.
it was those points where I decided that I needed to do something. I'd also been living in Europe for a long time, and my family were like, it's time that you come home. You know, they weren't aware of where I was, and thank goodness I was overseas, because I had access to rehab at no cost, where here in South Africa, people have to fork out an arm and a leg for rehab.
Yeah, it's not fair, man.
No, it's not fair. So I came back to South Africa, leaving all those people behind as well. I think that was probably the best thing I could have done. And I had to move back to the town I grew up in, which was Rustenburg. I'm now...
Triggerville, hey?
Yeah,
Yo!
I'm now like 26, 27, 28 years old. I can't remember, it was my late 20s, living back with mom and dad.
Had you already got clean, or did you get clean when you got home to Rustenburg?
So I'd already started the 12-step program. So getting back to Rustenburg and removing myself from the people, removing myself from the community was part of the process. And then when I moved back to Rustenburg, what else are you going to do in a one-horse town? I joined the gym. And it was from then that I started to turn things around. I started becoming obsessive with human movement and what the human condition was capable of. And that's kind of where it all started for me.
So now you're 26, 27.
Yeah.
You're staying at home.
Yeah.
Were you actually living with your parents?
I was actually living in their
Dude,
house.
I've been doing that at the moment. Hey.
It is not. You are not the same person you were when you were 12.
You think you're enlightened, and then you spend a
Yes.
weekend at your parents.
Yes, exactly. It was hard. It was hard.
Yeah,
times.
gratitude.
Yeah.
So now you're not just running away from the folks to go to gym, but you're going to gym. And as you said, your own words, you know, an addiction as an addiction, you just moved your addiction to another space.
Yes.
You start doing your gym. Were you gymming like the rest of the girls gym? Like you were going and doing the circuits, maybe two classes?
No, I've always been more attracted to weight training.
Okay.
And I'll tell you how I got into powerlifting, because I really fell into it. It was purely by accident, by chance. When I started working professionally, I've always worked in strength and performance. And I
Okay.
was working with combat athletes. So I worked with a lot of South African EFC fighters. I've been working with Lee Dyer for 15 years now, who's SA champ, ABU champ in boxing. And my fundamentals when it comes to coaching is the ruthless execution of the basics. And the basics are the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift. There are three movements that train your body as a unit, as a whole. So I also included these as part of my personal training. I was in the gym one day, and now I'm 47 kilos. I'm repping out 140 kilo deadlift. And
so for someone who doesn't do this kind of training...
No, I'm not in powerlifting. I'm just deadlifting.
But I'm saying for someone who's watching right now and maybe they're like brand new to training, a 140 kilo deadlift for a woman of your size, is that huge, amazing, super heavy?
So I think for most women, a good goal in your training, everyday training, is probably to deadlift your body weights.
Okay.
So that's a good gauge. So here I am at 47 kilos and I'm repping out 140 like I'm getting paid.
And you're sober.
I'm sober, and I think that this is just what women my size do. And I was in Durban at the time, and a local powerlifting coach came up to me in the gym, and he said, "Sure, that's pretty good for a small human. We're having a powerlifting comp down at, I don't know if you guys remember, Train Gym on Point Road."
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where it all started. He said, "Come on down there in 2 weeks' time. Let's see what you got." And again, athletic background, highly competitive individual. It's like, fuck this, let's go. I rock up on the day. I have no idea what the rules and regulations are, what the requirements are. I walk into this competition. I'm bombing out left, right, and center, but I'm still getting my lifts. But I'm fucking up because I don't know the commands. I don't know the rules. I don't know how it works. Anyways, I unofficially broke a world deadlift record at that competition.
What? And this is 26-year-old you, or you're a bit older now?
This is 30-year-old Lil.
Okay, so you are 3 years clean.
3 years clean.
You haven't been trained, like you've been training yourself, but you haven't like...
not as a powerlifter.
No, you've just been like going to gym.
Just been going to gym, squatting, benching, deadlifting.
Getting your points, a free smoothie now and then.
Exactly. That's all I'm doing. And if you have to see a picture of what I wore to this competition, if you know what powerlifting looks like and what people look like, I look like I've just run out of an 80s aerobics class.
Oh, I love it.
We have to wear onesies because the rules depict that we need to wear onesies because they need to watch our hip creases or whatever. I have Lumo yellow socks on because we have to wear socks. I can't remember now if I had a headband on, but a headband kind of suits this. So I walk into the competition and I unofficially break a world deadlift. Now, you can't break a world record unless you're surrounded by international judges, so it was unofficial. But it did earn me a spot at SA Champs the following year, which I trained for. Won SA Champs, broke another, officially my first 6 world records, qualified for World Champs in Argentina. Went to Argentina with no coach, just me.
I was going to say, who's representing you at this point?
This is me, myself, and I.
So how are you affording all of this?
I paid for it myself. So I got there on my own, didn't have a coach with me. And again, if you understand powerlifting, you've got to have someone with you. There's a lot involved with it. Went into Argentina on my own. There were about 5 other South African athletes. We didn't really know each other. Some were from Joburg, some were from Cape Town. Won my first world title.
Stop!
Broke another 6 world records.
Oh,
and the rest is pretty much history. That's where I spent my next 10 years.
So wait, you broke a world record before you got a coach?
Yes, I broke 6 before I got a coach.
And so then did you have to kind of sit like this and have coaches line up and come and interview for you? Be like, no, thanks. And how did you get your coach?
So I don't know. Okay, obviously, if you're not, again, in the world of strength, but there's a guy in Australia by the name of Sebastian Oreb. He is the Australian strength coach. He's actually Thor Bjornsson's coach. Oh. Thor's strongest man. Yes. So I worked with him for 6 years. And he kind of, if I looked at how I performed in that first World Champs, the way I moved was horrendous. Just everything was wrong. I had my own coaching. I knew how to move the right way, but when you're competing in a performance sport, there's a lot of things you got to dial in on, and I hadn't done any of those things. So he just turned me around. I had to make quite a lot of, I had to gain some weight. He didn't want me to compete under 48 anymore. He just turned me around as an athlete. He became a mentor to me in business, as a coach.
Was this all online, or did you go to Australia?
I have never spoken to Sebastian Oreb on the phone. He took me to 4 world championships, and he took me to 19 world records. And that's why I believe in online coaching so much. And this is why I've got 70 athletes around the world who I coach. I don't talk to anyone. I don't do any live shows. It's all about communication. And with sport, and this is why I enjoy working with athletes, is that they're motivated by competition. You know, you're a personal trainer in a gym. It's very different where Karen and Sharon come in and they want to do their thing. But they're not motivated by something. You need to motivate them.
They're working off their wine.
Yeah, but in competition, if I don't go to gym and squat on a Monday, my coach will turn around when I miss that squat on the platform and say, well, you didn't train on Monday. So we motivated by competition, which is why online training works for us. And I wanted the best in the world. And the best in the world wasn't accessible to me. He was in Australia.
Sure.
And he actually sponsored me, which was amazing. So I never paid for my coaching for a long time. But I owe my entire career to him.
But now, Lil, obviously, you are a woman. And when you think powerlifting, 2024, I still think man straight away. This is many years, well, not so many years ago, but a few years ago. And you're a woman in the sport. Women in sport, obviously, it's still quite a beginning phase. And now we're already having to look at women in sport, men in sport, and then we've got transgender in sport. Do you have any opinion? Because already women are trying to kind of have our stand in specific situations.
So I think a lot's changed over the last 10 to 20 years. You know, when I started in the sport, when I walked into that first competition, there were 7 girls and 50, 60 men in that competition. And when I walked out of that, and because it just lit this fire inside me, I looked at this picture and I thought, fuck this, man. Why are more women not doing this? I cannot tell you how empowering the sport of powerlifting is. What I've learned over the years, it's not about strength, it's not about physicality. It's about how much it can empower you. As a woman, when you walk up to a weight and you know what you're capable of, what that does for you and how that translates into the rest of your life, that is what's so empowering. And that's why I've fallen in love with strength sports and strength as a whole. And our battles back then were different. You know, people did look at powerlifting exactly like you say. These are big women. They've got a little bit of extra fat covering them. There's a lot of stereotyping around. I wanted to change that. I was like, here I am.
Yeah, you're
I'm
petite.
a world champion.
I mean,
I'm under 52 kilos. I got a lot of flack from the men in the industry when I walked into powerlifting and I started coaching people. I had a lot of the old school guys say to the men that I was coaching, what does a 52-year-old woman know about having 300 kilos on her back? And I don't know what it's like to have 300 kilos on my back, but I do know what it's like to have 3.5 times my body weight on my back. And I've got a very good understanding of mechanics. I've got a very good understanding of human movement. And as a woman, we are not naturally strong. We're not born strong. We are not the athletic species. So we've had to learn the hard way how to get strong. So it's a lot easier for me as a woman to teach someone how to get strong than it is for a man, in my beliefs, because they haven't had to work for their strength like I have. And now today, we've spent all this time growing. I mean, female sports are in the light now. It's incredible to see what happened at the last Soccer World Cup, and I love it.
Yeah.
But we face a whole set of new challenges, and that's, I don't discriminate. I want all people to compete in sports, 100%. But I don't believe we should be categorized by our gender. And what people don't understand is, it's not about men coming into women's sports. It's not about their genitals.
Yeah.
Our rib cages are not the same sizes. So they allow for greater VO2 max and a greater cardio capacity.
Good point.
Our Q angle, which is the angle in which our femur goes into our hips, is at a lot larger angle than a man's is, which means they are able to generate power and explosiveness a lot more than a woman does. We are not the same by any means. You know, hormone treatment. If you're a 26-year-old man and you're now becoming a woman, the testing says that you've got to be within a certain hormone range within the last 2 years. Where's the 24 years of testosterone that you've built up that I haven't had the opportunity to build up?
Wow.
I've trained for 10 years to break those world records to get those titles. Mark can walk into the gym tomorrow, train for a month, and he will break every single one of my world records because he's naturally got a hell of a lot more testosterone, more musculature. His legs are better built. His rib cage, he can breathe. He can recover faster than I can. It's all these things that get taken into account. And now our sports are being swept under the rug by this because people are allowing it. I don't know if you know Bethany Hamilton, one of the greatest surfers, female surfers of all time. She's got one arm. She's just pulled out of the Surfing World Series because they allow men to compete in women's surfing. And the World Chess Federation, chess, have now disallowed transgenders in chess. Now, if you ask me, that's one sport I think they can take part in.
I mean,
but they are forward thinking, you know what I mean? That's not a performance sport. It's cognitive performance. And here we are, powerlifting especially. You know, strength sports is riddled with steroids. It's riddled with all sorts. So it's one of the main sports, powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting, where we're seeing a lot of men come into. And I'm seeing women across the world pulling out of our sport because men are coming in.
How do you compete against a man?
Exactly. Honestly. There was a trans woman recently in Canada who stood up and said, I don't understand why women are so terrible at bench press. I just walked into this competition and smashed the world record by 50 kilos. Well, I'll tell you why. Because a man's androgen receptors are in the upper body. So you are naturally going to be stronger than us. So you may no longer have a penis, but you still have 25 years of testosterone. You are still built differently. It's these things that people are not considering. And the trans community is so brave to sit here and go, what about us? Why can't we be included? But what about us?
Do you know what's interesting,
What
though,
about us?
is that when we speak about trans, especially in sport, we're talking about males who are going through the process of change into women's sports. But exactly what you're saying now, we're not having these discussions about the other way, because we don't have a woman who's crossing over to become a man and now, smashing all the running records or the lifting records because of exactly the things you're saying. So this is not a situation of someone should or shouldn't be transgender. This is I think you said it so well.
I think I want them to compete. I do, but let's have male, female, and other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't put them in with, I hate to say them because it sounds rude, but you know what I mean.
Oh, with this day and age, to say them actually has so much attached to it. But I know what you're saying.
I mean, how's this for a statistic, right? So Usain Bolt runs 100 meters in, I'm going to get this wrong now, 9:52, okay? The fastest woman on the planet runs it in, again, I'm going to fuck this up, I think it's like 10:09. So it's split seconds. There are 700 men between Usain Bolt and the fastest woman on earth. 700.
What?
That's a massive statistic. That should show you right there and there. This is not about, we are not the same.
Yeah, we're not the same. We're not the same.
And we've just gotten to a point where women's sport is like steamrolling ahead. We're getting noticed, we're getting paid, and now we're kind of getting pushed back again.
And you know what's so interesting is that it's not even like a feminist aspect, but it's saying when we say we want to be treated equal, that means we just want you to respect us equally. We want to get paid well. We want to get the same amount of respect. But I am not the same as you, man.
We are not
I don't want to be
same.
treated like a man. I just want to be respected in the
For
world.
what I am, 100%.
Exactly. Talking about the respect and man versus woman, you are quite obviously a gorgeous woman. Even though you're a powerlifter, and I say even though, please, I'm sorry if I'm sounding,
No.
Even though you're a powerlifter, your body, what I presume a powerlifter would look like, you've got a really beautiful, lean, feminine physique. But as you've said, you can lift 3 times your weight on your back. You were doing 40 something kgs. How many times do you go out and have some dude be like, can you bench press me? Can you deadlift me? Does it happen? I imagine that you've probably been like this so many times with someone.
And then something I also get is they say to me, well, what is your deadlift world record? It's 185 kilos. And how many times did you do that? I did it once. Oh, just once. That's not impressive.
Oh, I can't. How many times you win comrades once? Doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't count.
Exactly. Yeah, there's been, that's exactly it. I think I love that I'm unassuming. I love that people don't know what I'm capable of. And I love that I do still look feminine. And I think this is also what I've been trying to educate women on. Is because when they look at powerlifting or the sound of powerlifting is not something they want to get involved in because they're very scared of getting big and bulky. But we do not have the androgen.
Yeah.
We don't have the hormones to get, I've competed at 10 years at 52 kilos. I have been in the 52 kilo weight class for 10 years. And I've gone from 100 kg squat to a 160 kg squat. I've gone from a 120 kg deadlift to a 185 deadlift. Yes, I've put on muscle. I've lost a shit ton of body fat. My bone density's through the roof.
Oh, wow.
You look at the benefits of powerlifting when you're doing it right and the health benefits. Muscle is our most valuable tissue. You want muscle. And I don't, when I think about fueling my performance and I think about nutrition, as women, we are brought up in a society where we've got to eat less and we've constantly got to be lean. And I've learned to go against that. And the more I eat, the better I'm going to perform, the better my body responds. Now I'm getting better sleep. I'm training harder, so now my body's responding better. And when I said to you just now I was 47 kilos and 28% body fat, I've now walked around for the better part of the last 5 or 6 years at 11% body fat. With a shit ton more muscle. Yes, I'm still tiny, but powerlifting is not going to make you bigger.
When you were first starting and you were getting into this, did you ever feel a draw or a pull to steroids?
Absolutely.
And did you ever take any?
No. So with the federations that I compete in, I don't want to say doping's allowed, but it's not frowned upon.
Okay.
World champs on the entry forms, it says that doping will not be tested. So I could, if I wanted to, I really could if I wanted to. But then I have to, and I've been so tempted on so many occasions. And I have people say to me all the time, of course you must be on steroids. How can you lift that much weight? Yet when they see my bench press, which is fucking shocking, let me tell you. No one says,
what is your bench press?
75 kilos. So nobody goes, oh, you must be on steroids, because it's shit. But when they see my squats and deadlift, they assume that I am. People have also said to me, why do I compete in the federations where they allow it if I'm not going to? So there are federations that are drug tested. The truth is, I know sports. I've worked in sport for 15 years. If you think that there are no steroids in any sport, you're exceptionally naive. The guys in the federation, and I will say this, I'll get some hate, they'll throw shade, but the people that are competing in those federations where the drugs are tested does not mean that they are not using drugs. It just means they were free of the drugs at the time of testing.
For.
I would rather. It's the same as when you eat hormone-free meats. Everyone thinks that hormone-free. No, it means they are free of hormones at the time of slaughter. So,
you are blowing my mind.
So when I wanted to step on a powerlifting platform, because this was about me and overcoming my past, I wanted to know that the girls I was competing against were saying, hey, I'm on steroids.
Yeah.
Not hiding it from me.
Yeah. And you can still beat them.
And you can still beat them. And there are a lot of women in powerlifting who don't use steroids because they are there for the same reasons that I was. And I got to a point where I had a goal with my coach. I wanted to achieve a certain total. And he said to me, if you're going to talk steroids, we cannot have those discussions until you have reached this total.
Okay.
So he gave me something to work towards, because strength needs to be earned. I see a lot of people coming into the world of sport, the world of powerlifting, and it's easy for them to, even a woman, pop some Anavar and you see their strength increase, but they're going to plateau a hell of a lot sooner than anyone else. I needed to build that base. So when I finally achieved that total, I was like, yeah, I got on the phone, I'm like, I'm ready. Give me the juice. Let me see where I can go. COVID hits.
And then it was more carrot, apple, and ginger juice than anything else. Yeah.
COVID hit, so I had to stop competing, and things kind of escalated after there, and I actually hung up my chucks and decided not to carry on competing. But it's a very, very slippery slope. And because I'm an addict, or I'm a recovered addict, I knew that I'm going to start with one Anavar, and where is this going to go?
Okay.
Next thing, I'm going to be on Trenbolone, and I'm going to be out. So I needed to know what my limitations were, and I just felt like it would be a slippery slope for me. Peptides, I've been running growth hormones since I was 36 years old. That's not a performance-based drug at all. That's purely for health, longevity. Helps you recover faster, so I suppose it does help your performance.
Yeah,
but it's not what people will turn to for sports performance.
So let's talk now about your online business. I know it's doing super well. I mean, I know a few people that have trained with you. My super cute pregnant boxing coach being one of them. And I remember the reason I told her, because I was like, Candy, your bum looks amazing. She's like, this is a little bum. This is a little bum. So your way of coaching, just your opinion of things like diets, because obviously we're doing this podcast specifically to give people who maybe are stepping into the wellness space for the first time an idea, and we want everyone's different opinions of what is and what isn't. So from your opinion, you've got someone coming to you and they're coming to you for coaching. Do you give them diet advice? What is your diet advice?
Okay, so when people come to us, the biggest thing we want to teach them is that you're not trying to fit into a fitness lifestyle. You want to take fitness and fit it into your lifestyle.
Nice.
So what we try to do is educate you on food. There's no such thing as good foods and bad foods. There's calorie-dense foods and foods that aren't calorie-dense. Our whole model, our methodology that we use at OTG is about educating people. We want you to spend, let's say, a year with us, and we want you to take away from that and never, ever have to invest in another coach again.
So
never, ever have to buy another meal plan. We do not do meal plans. We don't believe in them. You follow something for 2 weeks, you're fucking bored after that.
Yes.
You put that meal plan away, what are you going to do now? Or you got a wedding on the weekend, what am I going to do now? They don't have chicken and broccoli. So we educate you about your macros, what your body needs. As you age, you need more protein. All these things is what we educate you on. So it's more of a system, an educational system. And because the better understanding you have of food, the more control you have over your diet, the more you can eat and drink whatever you want, as long as it's fitting into what your daily budget is, which is what we manage for you.
What is your food intake or your kind of a day look like when it comes to what you...
It's a bit...
If you can tell us honestly.
Yeah, this is what I do. And I don't want other people to think that they can do this.
Okay.
So I eat 3,000 calories a day to maintain my weight. Now, that's a shit ton of weight for someone who's 53, 54 kilos. I mean, a shit ton of calories. But also spending 10 years in performance sports and training my body to utilize calories the right way. Most girls my size shouldn't be eating more than 1,700 calories. So 3,000 is a lot. But I've spent 10 to 15 years doing that. You know, people always say to me, how long is it going to take me to look like you? 12, 14, 16 weeks? No, buddy. I've been doing this for 15 years. That's discipline and consistency. So...
But what, like, are you a meat eater? Are you veggie?
I
Does
eat
it change?
everything.
Okay.
So I eat absolutely everything.
Dairy, gluten, the whole vibe.
I'm all about the glutens.
Do you drink?
Yes, I drink alcohol.
What's your favorite drink?
I'm a tequila girl, 100%
yes,
tequila
margarita
girl.
for days, eh?
But again, when I was a competitive athlete, I had to sacrifice a lot. So my entire 30s, I wasn't on the jowl on the weekend. You know, 38 to 40 now, like, I've been making up for lost time. I really have been. But it's also about me learning to have that kind of balance in my life again.
And I just have to ask you this because it came to my head, but now that, like, so let's say you have a jowl weekend, do you ever get tempted by your old friend from before?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not, no. I think I've completely passed it in my life. You know, I went through a divorce 2 years ago, which was really tough, and I think that was the closest I ever came to it again. But I'm in a completely different mental space. I thought about it, but I didn't think about it to the point where I was like, where can I get it? It was just like, that would help me right now.
Were you able to still train through the divorce,
So
or
I
did
was in
training
prep
become like
for-
your therapy?
I was in prep for quite a big invitational meet here in South Africa, and my coach was the one who turned around to me and said, Lil, you don't have the mental capacity for this, and if you don't stop, you're going to hurt yourself. What does he know? I know far more than he does. Of course I'm going to carry on. Within a week of him telling me that, I tore my QL, which is quite an intrinsic muscle to tear, put me out for 6 months, and that was pretty much it for me. Because it's true, if you don't have the mental
QL,
capacity...
like back?
Yeah, you're back.
You tore that?
I tore that. I tore that badly. And I was out for 6 months because of this muscle and the amount of movement that's involved, so all your pelvic movement. So yes, I stopped lifting weights, but sitting down and standing up became challenging.
You were going through the mental, and then obviously you did hurt which also shows actually how our bodies do talk to us. And when you are mentally down, you do need to take a break. And I think that people forget that. They get so obsessed that you forget that your body talks so loudly to you, and he or she is just like, I need a break, and we don't.
And we don't do it.
And then people are, I almost feel like over supplementing. I see the people that go and smash these energy drinks before they do something because they're tired, rather than having a lie down or a nap. But the word supplementing or supplementation, do you supplement?
Absolutely. So
What kinds of things?
So with supplementation, I think what people forget is that it is supplementation to a diet. You don't become dependent on those things. So you need to focus on your diet being 100% before you start including everything else you want to supplement with. There's only 2 things that I take religiously besides the multivitamin, and that's whey protein, because we don't get enough protein in our diet on a daily basis, and creatine.
Okay.
Those are 2 things that I swear by. With regards to recovery, there's no such thing as overtraining. There is such thing as under recovery. And again, supplementation plays a big role in recovery. But for me, because of my past and what I've learned in the sport, I'm not going to tell you that you need your 8 hours of sleep at night and you need your sports massage every 2 weeks. Recovery is mental. You need to go home and listen to really good music. You need to hug your pets. You need to spend time with your mates and sit and laugh. That is mental recovery. And those are the things that people are neglecting. They're quick to go grab the supplements, get in the oxygen chamber, get a good night's sleep. But what about your mental recovery? And that's a big thing that I find people are neglecting today.
If someone wants to get hold of you, whether they want to, I mean, do you have space for more clients? I mean,
yes,
okay.
absolutely.
If someone is looking to find you, OTG, how do they get hold of you? Is Instagram, online?
So you can find me across all platforms. Website is www.otgmethod.com. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram. It's Lil_Bianchi.
All right, thank you so much.
Cool, thank
and
you for
as
having
always,
me.
if you have any questions or comments, just comment underneath here. If you have any questions for us or anything you'd like us to discuss, we are here for you. This is the point. And thank you again, Lil, so much. This was
Thank you. It was
really
awesome to be here.
eye-opening, and
Thank you.
it's quite inspiring. Really,
Thank you
very
very much.
inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.